How's it going, free to play gang? Welcome back to another video. So I've actually been on holiday for the past 1 week, and all the videos that you have seen so far are actually pre-recorded many days ago, and therefore I was not able to cover some of the more important game-changing content recently, and I hope you guys understand why I did not cover those contents, such as the new patch details. Anyway, for today I have a little bit of time because I'm currently in Italy, so we can talk a little bit about Luo Yan. But before we get into it, if you found that you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe for more dislike content. Subscribing is free and you can always change your mind afterwards. So as always, let's take a look at his skills before we move on to the relics that I'm using him with. So here is the first skill, Death. Deals damage equal to 120% of attack to an enemy while healing whichever ally has the least health for 50% of damage dealt in this attack. This is not going to heal you by too much because he's not going to be built too damagey. In fact, I would recommend you to build him more tanky. And as such, his first skill is actually quite useless, so you don't really need Avatara on him. And here's his second skill, Life. So marks a teammate with Death Tome for 2 turns and grants them recovery and attack up for 2 turns. After the tome expires, if the teammate has lost some HP during the 2 turns, then restores the lost HP. So basically, if they lost 50% HP from when they had the buff, they'll regain all that 50% HP. It doesn't matter whether you healed your ally along the way, they will still regain the amount of HP that they had lost previously. Also, if they have died, then resurrects them with 30% HP remaining, and this also removes all your buffs and all your debuffs on your ally, which can be a double-edged sword sometimes. And finally, moving on to his third skill here is Fate. Deals damage equal to 110% of attack to all enemies and reduce their HP ceiling by 30% with a 70% chance to inflict disease for 2 turns. So do take note that there is a 100% chance for you to reduce their enemy's HP ceiling. It's only the diseased effect that has a 70% proc chance. But of course, here comes like resistance and accuracy check. So if you're wondering what these stats do, accuracy is what counteracts resistance. So you're potentially still going to miss a lot of the time, but most of the time it's going to be quite useful. And I think one very important thing to note about his third skill is that it bypasses immunity, and it bypasses all kinds of stuff like even hides passive immunity. So his debuff is actually incredibly powerful, and I'll show you why. And here's his captain ability, increases ally resistance in point war by 40%. I can guarantee you that this is actually very useful. I use this in the point war quite a lot, and I find that it's really good against speed teams because most speed teams run with units such as Longmian, TA, Tricky, you know, those usual debuffers. And sometimes maybe even Gabriel, because Gabriel has a ton of debuffs like attack down and defense breaks. Anyway, moving on to the relics, this is just my suggestion, okay? So I'm running him with Ocean Waves and Avatara. You definitely do not need to run him with Avatara. I think Avatara is not that useful because like I said before, his first skill is not that strong. So let's take a look at why I'm using Ocean Waves over here. You have a 35% chance of reducing all ability cooldowns by 1 turn at the start of each turn. Now this is extremely useful if used with his second skill because his second skill has a cooldown of only 3 turns, so you could potentially be using Life every other turn, which could then upkeep any of your Espers to maintain full survivability for as long as they can, or at least as long as you are faster than your ally. So I use this a lot on my DPS Esper sometimes, and it is very powerful. And as for his second set over here, apart from Avatara, I may just suggest anything, okay? So anything that grants him speed and HP and probably some accuracy would work very well. So this slot is not that fixed, you can use a lot of different things on it. And as you can see, I'm running him with a ton of HP, some speed, and as much accuracy as I can muster. But of course, optimally, you want him to have a lot of HP, a lot of defense, a lot of speed, and of course, a lot of resistance. I think accuracy may not be that essential because I think accuracy is kind of a broken stat at this point in time. So the place that I use Luo Yan a lot is in 3 different areas. So the first is going to be PvP, the second is going to be the Cube Miracle, and the third is going to be a Temporal Tower. Okay, we're going to start with the Cube Miracle because I think this is the easiest for me to showcase his talents. Now, the Cube Miracle is known for having very powerful enemies with a lot of HP. So this is naturally where I think his third skill comes into play, and especially against Espers such as Hyde, because Hyde revives himself based on the max HP that he has, which means that removing his HP cap actually reduces the amount of HP that he revives with, and that could be potentially really helpful. And of course, even though his third skill is his main selling point in the Cube Miracle, his second skill is also really good because that effectively protects one of your Espers from dying, and we all know that if your Esper dies during the Cube Miracle, it's pretty much game over for you, especially if you do not have a lot of Espers to work with. So many a times he actually protected my Lin Xiao a lot, and just making sure that my Lin Xiao doesn't go pop within like the first few turns. And of course, this is also really helpful in the Temporal Tower because of the same few reasons. You want to keep your Espers alive, and Luo Yan is just really good at it. And of course, this is not to forget that his second skill also provides an attack buff, which is also very helpful for a lot of DPS Espers. Okay, now I'm going to go to PvP because I think this is where he shines the most. I'm not actually running him with his leader skill over here, but as you can see, I'm going to show you how powerful his third skill can be by simply bypassing the enemy's immunity, and this is in my opinion a very good way to deal 30% fixed damage against enemy comps, and it is extremely powerful against the current meta, which is just tanky comps. So all players, from tier 10 or maybe tier 11, 12 onwards to tier 16, most of them are running tanky comps, so he effectively already removes 30% of their HP just like that, which can be very powerful against certain espers such as Clara, who is also one of the most meta espers right now, and of course against a lot of tanky espers out there like Sally and Donna and Gabriel as well. And maybe to illustrate how powerful his second skill can be for PvP, let's watch how my Catherine deals with all the incoming damage that she's receiving, and I think you can understand the power of the Ocean Waves on PvP. Also, do take note that I'm not running any healers on this comp, even though I think that healers would definitely benefit this team a lot. Yet you'll notice that because of Loyan's second skill, my HP is actually going up a lot. But retrospectively, I think a healer would work much better over here. So someone like Clara or Hengrye is going to be a little bit better than Catherine in my opinion, for at least in this composition that I'm using. Because the longer you keep your team alive, the more third skill you can use, and therefore more chances to remove the enemy's max HP. But from my experience using Loyan so far, I think you can only remove up to 50% of their HP. You can't actually remove more than 50% of their HP. But of course, I think there are some setbacks to using Loyan. Okay, so firstly, of course, if he misses his third skill, then his third skill is as good as useless. And also, he's basically just a healer and he doesn't really do a lot of things otherwise. He does keep your teammate alive, but his first skill does nothing, right? He doesn't do any defense breaks, he doesn't do any kinds of debuffs. So he's not incredibly flexible, he's just really good at what he does. But sometimes you don't really need someone like Loyan on your team because maybe you're using a speed cleave and your intention is just to blast through the enemy lineup very quickly. If that's the case, then Loyan is very useless. But that'll be it for the showcase of Loyan. I hope you found this video useful. I hope from here you finally know how to use Loyan, because honestly it took me a bit of time for me to plan out how I want to use him, but now I'm using him every single day. And I don't think I'm going to replace him anytime soon. I think he has one of the best kits in the game until possibly when they nerf his third skill to prevent him from reducing the HP of immune enemies. When the day comes, I will have to revisit Loyan again, and maybe my opinion of him will change by then. Regardless, this is Loyan right now, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, it really helps the channel. Subscribe for more dislike content, and this has been Free to Play by the way, and as always, I will see you in the next video.